Alright, first video of the decade. Ready to start this decade off right. Wait, Peter, are you in this video?
Hey Jim, yeah, I'm actually in this video.
Alex too?
Yeah, Jim, I'm actually being part of the video, but you know what? You're only getting audio, nothing else. Got it?
Shit. Well, guess I don't need my alcohol. I still want it. Welcome back to Rolling Review, where we talk about all things nerdy and awesome. I'm Jim, and this time we actually have Peter and Alex here. Not here, they're recording from their own homes, because I smell. But we're doing our top 15 video games of the decade. Super excited. Not only to share with you my top 5, but also to hear what Alex and Peter have to say about their top 5s. Alright, so my first game is Heavy Rain. If you haven't played it, it came out like February of 2010, so barely made it into this decade. But Heavy Rain is this really cool story-driven game that's not super action-y, it's nothing like that, it's just almost pure story. But the big difference is the actions you make in that game and the decisions you make actually affect the end, which not a lot of games do that. But it was just really cool. Loved the game, and it was an amazing story. Tons of replay value trying to get all the different endings. Just an absolute wonderful game that I think stands the test of time and makes it one of the top games of this decade.
Spider-Man for the PS4 is just one of those games that's quintessential Spider-Man. This game boasts the best web slinging to date, finally dethroning Spider-Man 2, which is such a huge feat because you have to get that just right. And it really shows because this game is just so much fun. Even after 100%ing everything, I still find myself wanting to load it up just so I can swing through downtown Manhattan. Everything in this world seems to come alive when you're playing, and everything just feels right to the characters and just the fun that you're having. The sequel to this game is definitely going to be on one of my most anticipated lists whenever it comes out.
One game that came immediately to mind is Alien Isolation. This is a survival horror game that came out in 2014, and it does everything that it needs to do fantastically. Like, you are sitting there in constant suspense thinking you're going to die in 3 seconds, and you usually do. But another thing that's constantly amazing me about this game is the effort and the time that they took to really develop the aesthetic of the Alien franchise. It looks like the movies. So when you're walking around, like, you are immediately immersed into the terrifying universe that is the Alien universe. And so just for that experience alone, it's absolutely amazing. But the story's great, and the AI and the mechanics are fantastic. So if you've not played this game, it's really worth trying. It is completely brilliant.
So my number 2, Civilization 6. Absolutely love that game. Great sequel to Civilization 5. They made a huge number of changes, like with district tiles, not just having to fit everything into the core, which actually made you strategize with how you built your city, instead of just building everything. A lot of fun playing multiplayer. I may have a bit of an addiction to it, like 1,600, almost 1,700 hours in that game, but just absolutely fantastic game. Love it. Play it all the time by myself, with my friends. Needed to be on the list.
The Tomb Raider reboot game was actually really fun. It was my first experience of the Tomb Raider franchise, and it did something new where you got to use different weapons. I know that Lara Croft isn't known for using a bow, but it does really add a whole lot of interesting dynamics, and the story and the situation that you're put in really is compelling. And I know that a lot of people say the second one's better, but I really enjoyed the first one because it just had so much going on, where you could explore all the different tombs and had all these extra things that you could do if you wanted. You didn't have to. They didn't necessarily put the story forward, but they made it a lot more interesting and a lot more immersive. You could learn so much about the place that you were at. So as the type of game that Tomb Raider is, it's great, and I enjoyed it tremendously.
Total War Shogun 2 Fall of the Samurai is one of my favorite strategy games of all time, not just this decade. And yes, I do mean Fall of the Samurai only. I don't even own the base game of Shogun 2. This game has everything to have a lot of fun with. Do you think Samurai and Ninja are awesome? Well, that's the setting, you're gonna have a good time. Do you really love the old Napoleonic style combat? Good, because we've got that too, and I say probably some of the best mechanics for it. Do you like the old school melee clashes of the original Shogun, Rome Total War, and Medieval Total War? We got that too. Have some actual fun and challenge while taking cities without having to worry about lumbering siege weapons. It's perfect, it's right here. Also, this game has US Marines, best game ever, 10 out of 10.
The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim needed to be brought up in this list, period. It was a huge game in this decade, and it was one of my first forays into open world games where you can just wander around and just see what's out there and just pick up any quest you want. And that's really one of the things that I really enjoy about this game, is you can wander around, you can explore, you can, pick up random stuff and see what it does. You can just be walking around your own way, and then all of a sudden, look, there's a pit that you haven't been in before, and there's a mission that you can do. And there's just so much going on, and as with the Elder Scrolls, there's a lot of lore, there's a lot of story going on, and it's always very interesting to me, all the stuff that you can find out. Now, the mods make it a much more interesting experience, so that in itself makes this game worth replaying multiple times, just to try out different mods, just to see all the different creative stuff that gets put into this game. But another thing that I just have to mention is the music. The music in this game is fantastic, so if you've not played it, which I would be highly surprised, you need to go try this one.
So my number 3, Borderlands 2, absolutely fantastic game. Great sequel. Unfortunately, the first one didn't quite make it in because, well, that was made in 2008. But great game, great story. You got to interact with all of the characters from the previous game. They expanded Pandora a bunch, so you got to go to new places while revisiting the old ones to see how time has changed those places. Just absolutely great game. Great to play with friends or alone, and replay over and over again with each character. Just amazing.
It's no surprise that someone who loves storytelling in games as much as I do, the Uncharted franchise had to be one of my favorite series. So I guess it just makes sense that I put Uncharted 4 here, because in my opinion, it is the best of the series. Come at me, Uncharted 2. This has everything you want in adventure: exotic locales, brilliant set pieces, and memorable bad guys. One of the most beautiful games ever, plus Nolan North and Troy Baker. This was always going to be a grand slam.
Number 4, the wonderful Kerbal Space Program. Weird for me, because it was kind of my first game breaking out of an action standpoint with either like first-person shooters or RTSs. Kerbal just being a game where you launch rockets into space. You design your rockets, you build them, and you launch them into space, and you try to bring everyone back home safe. So it was a really weird game, but it was one of those games that you don't realize how much you're learning until you look back at your old designs. And it was just so much fun to learn, and one of those games that I can't wait for the sequel, which should be coming out this year, 2020, which I'm definitely forcing Alex and Peter to get.
Another game for me is Portal 2. This is a puzzle game, and it's one of my favorites. Not only does it improve on the mechanics and the puzzle solving of the first game, but it really inserts story and makes it legitimately hilarious. Like, if you want a sarcastic pseudo-antagonist, this is your game. Like, you get this sarcastic computer following you around the whole time. GLaDOS is a fantastic character. But the puzzle building and the gameplay is just brilliant in all of the different environments where they just expand on the story of this place, and all the different looks where you get different eras. It's visually, it's amazing. And the fact that they also brought in co-op later, where you could play the same sorts of things with your friends and then be able to make your own maps, made this game such a great game that lives long and definitely is worth replaying every time.
The Witcher 3 is one of those games that just kind of sucks you in. We could go on and on about the technical prowess of this game, but that's been talked to death already. I mean, I've just put in over 500 hours on this game on both the PC and the Xbox One, and it just never gets any less fun. Even today, just trying to de-stress, I just went and killed some of the cannibals in the southwest of Velen. And ask any of my friends, I have not shut up about this game since it came out years ago. And Gwent's the best. Just barely making this list coming out in 2010, Red Dead Redemption was one of the best games of this decade. Can you even believe there was a time when we all thought Rockstar couldn't do anything that wasn't called Grand Theft Auto? Well, boy, were we wrong. This game is the quintessential cowboy experience, and I'm even going to throw in Red Dead Redemption 2 as kind of a cheating two-parter with this, because this series is like one big overarching story, and they only just naturally go together. And if anyone had any doubts about Rockstar being able to do anything that had some actual weight to it, that scene at the end of Red Dead Redemption 1, at the ranch, you all know what I'm talking about.
So my last game is the first game I ever platinumed on PlayStation, got all the trophies, and that's Far Cry 3. I mean, just craziness. There's just a weird story behind it. I walked into GameStop one day, didn't know what I wanted, talked to the manager, Ian, who's just a boss, and he just asked me what I like to play, pointed it out to me. I'd never heard of Far Cry before, and honestly fell in love with the game and that franchise, and it's just been absolutely amazing. It is one of my favorite games of all time. The combat's fantastic, the character progression with skills, and even the physical representation of those skills as tattoos growing on your arms. Super cool. The story's fantastic and an amazing action. And coming off of games like Call of Duty, it was the first time I really saw a really good action game and shooting game that was also really great story with one of the best villains ever. So that had to be probably my favorite game of the decade, if not one of my favorite games of all time.
I found Divinity Original Sin 2 by complete accident. All I was doing was looking through the Steam Workshop looking for a D&D replacement because our campaign had been put on hold for a while. What I found was this amazing Baldur's Gate style top-down RPG that you could play with your friends, up to 4 of them. I couldn't believe it. We have had so much fun with this game. You can create your own characters, go through this amazing story together. This was everything we could have wanted and more. I cannot wait for more from this company.
Another game that absolutely had to be mentioned here is Mass Effect 2. Now, I would talk about the whole Mass Effect franchise, but we don't have time. But one game that really, really exemplifies what Mass Effect does and what Mass Effect is Mass Effect 2. It improves tremendously on the mechanics of the first one. The combat mechanics are so much better in the second one than it is in the first one. But it has a hugely compelling story. All of your decisions make a huge difference. Like, choices you make throughout the game really, really change who lives, who dies, how it ends. And so that's what makes it so satisfying, is everything that you do, everything, how you play the game really, really affects your gameplay. And of course, as BioWare does, the dialogue and the characters are absolutely fantastic. So if you haven't ever played Mass Effect, this is a great one as an introduction.
Alright, so those are our top 15 games of the decade. If you haven't played them, check them out. They're all really great games. If you have played them, play them again. Or if it's, an online game like Civ 6, hit me up, because I will be playing it. Oh, bye. Alright. First video of the decade. I don't know, I'm drinking already. That was supposed to be at the end. I was just excited to drink.